Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
No, this is what I was thinking.
Oh, you wanna, before you have a motion to adopt it, you wanna speak?
I was just gonna say, we can get rid of these that we don't actually need to do today. But all the rest, I'd like to take some action on some way or another. 5, 7, 8, and 12. There's no reason to do any of those. But if you want to do 8, you
on
can.
here or on a different one?
On you. 5, 7, 8, and 12.
As of March 16th.
7 and 8 shouldn't take very long.
Well, the fire warden and the tree warden might involve executive session.
As I understand, you wanted a discussion of the regulations and what the tree warden's gonna do. We can discuss that and be ready for our next meeting.
Can I ask an even more basic question? Now that we are here, what is the hurry to rush through the agenda, cut the meeting
Ask
short?
the chair.
It's not, I just figure if everybody wants to be here long, we can just do the essentials and go. If you wanna be here longer, it's okay.
Well,
I can't
spoil
speak.
the afternoon, might as well make.
Well, yeah, but I can't speak for somebody's concern, maybe he has a concern that we're all together and it's not
Let's
good.
get started on it, see how it
That's fine with me.
Okay.
So we
I'll
need
make a
to
motion, we
adopt the agenda.
adopt the agenda as written.
Sorry. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Now, I think for the record, Bill, I think we should go on record that the meeting was, contact was made to the select board, and we, due to the virus, its concerns, and we moved it to the town hall, from the town hall, garage, to the town hall, and that everybody agreed to have the meeting at 3 o'clock. I think it needs to be said in the record.
I get the moving from there to here, but why move to 3 o'clock?
Because I don't want to be accused by certain people that we had a meeting and didn't invite people to come and kind of fooled them and all
Could
that.
have come
I
at
just-
6 o'clock.
Well,
I don't
at
understand.
6 o'clock they knew, they don't know 3. If the meeting was still at 6 o'clock in the location, I just feel uncomfortable, that's all. I've been called a lot of things and I just gotta have it in the record.
I hear what you're saying, but it seems like to put a sign up, the meeting is at 6 o'clock here is less questionable than changing the time and the location. But
You know,
whatever.
Do whatever you want,
We're here.
I just feel.
We're here now, so
We're here.
we're gonna do it.
All right, we need to approve the minutes of March 2nd.
And good.
Yeah, but let's do first, let's do the second first. Do we have a motion
I have a couple.
to make amend the motions and whatever?
Well, let's make the corrections and we can accept
Okay,
it.
all right.
Under paragraph 8,
You are on 2, right?
we are on 2, paragraph 8, response probably shouldn't have a 0 in it. And then just 3 more.
I don't know where you are.
What line is that?
Second sentence.
Paragraph 8, under response, second sentence,
Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah.
and just a couple more words down, triggers, and maybe that should be that way. Oh, if fine, I was gonna say is fine, but maybe if is what you want here. That's up to you, I would have said is fine, not if.
Where are you?
Just response triggers and if fine. I was thinking it would be is fine, but that's fine.
And if.
Yeah, that's fine.
Fine is all right.
That's fine, now that I read it again. And then the next sentence down, towards the end, of members to do necessary tasks for the tow, I'm assuming that should be town.
Yeah.
And then, under 13, on the second page, bullet point 1, 2, 3, I think lag, it should be log, maybe, lag landing.
Log landing again.
You're on March 2nd, right?
Yep.
Tina?
Yes.
Is it Clean Harbors or Green Harbors on number 9?
It's Clean Harbors. I don't know.
Yes, that was good, I'm glad you picked that
Oh,
up.
please.
Where is this, Kevin?
Number
Number
9,
nine, second.
session. Supposed to be clean, huh?
Yes,
Because Green Harbors wouldn't be clean. Right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
it's funny, I read that, and I said, geez,
Are there
maybe
any,
I'm wrong.
are there any other additions or corrections to the minutes of March 2nd?
Make a motion to adopt as corrected.
Second? Second?
I recused myself from that.
Yes,
Yeah, and it's, who second?
yes, sir.
Okay, so it's, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it's 4-1. Okay, the next one is the minutes of March 3rd, I guess, is the organizational
Yeah,
meeting.
Correct.
Are there any additions or corrections to this one? And if there's not, somebody make a motion to accept it.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? John, you're okay on that one? Yes, sir?
At some point, I'd like to discuss a little bit about that equipment. We can do it in another business.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, the warrants were signed by everybody.
And they are the 13th.
Yeah, they're here, so that's done. We can take care of that. The highway report, since Danny's not here,
Okay, this is the paving discussion so far, is there are basically 3 sites. And at each site, it's what you want to do with the site. The one site is Wyndham Hill, about, and when we did the projections of cost, Wyndham Hill site was $240,000, and I believe it went from the top down to Stagecoach. But I could be mistaken, because when you measure it, it goes quite a ways further. It may go all the way to the bridge, but that's about $240,000 out there. The big thing there is a bunch of cross culverts, the ditching, and then there's a couple places the pavement really needs looked at, because there are ski slopes in it. Okay. The second spot is Chester Road, from the boundary all the way to the second box culvert right by Ellsworth. Danny said that from there on toward Burgess Cemetery, if we're gonna do something, it would have to be more drastic. But to that spot, bull magging and, well, I'm sorry, from the beginning of the town to the corner, it would be bull mag, some other.
beginning of what town?
Just,
Okay.
Just to the corner where the pull-off is, that would all have to be treated more carefully, probably some other material in there before you pave, and those, Maddie, what do you call it, the cloth?
Oh, the cloth, yeah.
Okay, that cloth. But then from there, after the corner, all the way to the second culvert at Ellsworth, which is just past the driveway, would be bull mag, and then all of that would be repaved. That's about, all of it is between 220 and 240 to do.
So let's say 240.
Okay, the third spot is, and it's getting really bad, is from Beck's Bridge, where Sand was, the big bridge, out to somewhere
Near the ledge
Past
road, near the
ledge.
ledge roads
Yes.
area there.
past Lake Road.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with that, according to Danny, was the guy who did it followed all the specs, in the sense that he put the underlayment in, he put the sand in, he put the underlayment in, and he did everything right, and it did everything according to the specs, and then paved it. The problem is, the sand was crap, the gravel was crap, and so the road has all gone to hell. So what you're gonna do there is you guys will have to decide what you can do there. But if you're gonna tear it out and do something drastic, you're not gonna get very far with $200,000. So it might cost $200,000 just to get to it, to that road if you're gonna fix it right. He doesn't know what needs to be done there. He said the material is such lousy material that's why the road's going so bad. So he wanted to, let me finish and then you guys can discuss it, and I want you guys to discuss it, and that is, so he wants you guys to decide which section you want done this year. What your priorities to get done. Then he will recommend what should be done and the cost to do each one of the sites that you want. Again, setting in time-wise priority. And then we'll see what money we can get. We're probably, almost assuredly, not getting paving money for this season. If someone doesn't take the paving money this year and it happens that Green Fence calls us up, they won't do that till the fall. So that won't, I doubt that they'll know early that the 4 towns who are up for paving aren't gonna pave. If they do know, they'll get right back to us. And, because we're number 8, and they're probably only gonna do 4. And so, so we will be at the tail end of next year's.
But we might have it next year.
Yeah, so right now we have, when you combine all the money together, and Stan, we went over this, so you correct me if I'm wrong, around $300,000. So we could do any of those $200,000 jobs.
So we gotta pick one, the first choice, second choice, third choice. Obviously can't do them all.
Exactly.
I spoke to Danny Friday on this at great length, and we had 5 spots instead of 3.
Well, go ahead.
The first spot on Wyndham Hill, what you're doing up there is you're using a lot of your paving money to replace culverts and ditching, which you really shouldn't do. You should get some grant or take it out of another account. That's my opinion, because it limits you on paving. All you're going to end up paving is a very short distance.
Well, John, just so you know, when Emily was here, I think, and Bill doesn't know this, I believe we tried twice to get a grant to do those culverts and ditching there, and we turned down. There were 2 years. The first year they did it, I was elected, but it was done prior to. They didn't like the pictures, so the next year Emily went out with Danny and they took better pictures in color and they sent it to the state to try to get the grant, and they still rejected it. So we made 2 attempts to do the culvert and get some
But
grants.
there might be other ways. You've got a brand new excavator sitting there. Now, maybe he can do 2 culverts or 3 culverts this year, and you put it off till next.
Okay, let me finish that.
That's on that.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay, so, do culverts, okay.
And Chester Road, when we talked about that, there were spots that he wanted to build that up a foot with gravel.
Yeah, he talked about that last year and
And,
thereafter.
I think it was about 1970. We did that from,
Aaron Wood did it.
yeah, from Otis Road down through. Gould did it.
I thought Aaron Wood did that.
Gould.
Then Aaron Wood did it afterwards then.
Maybe, but we did that all the way down to Ellsworth back in 1970.
And then from Ellsworth, it went on, that got so bad, that was known as the Ho Chi Minh Trail, it got so
Right, yeah.
bad, and then Ellsworth to the town line,
Right, yeah.
that was bad.
But that means more money you're taking out of paving for building the road up. And we didn't get into how much road was gonna be built up. And on Beck's Bridge, down below Beck's Bridge, he wanted to go all the way to the Cambridgeport Bridge. And also, the ditch is down by Earl Douglas's. He wants to build those up and fill them up and pave them, because he's tried, I guess, to move the pole across the road, that sits right in the
Oh,
road.
it is, it's right
And you
there.
can't, they won't move it,
It's
so
right there.
if you did something with a ditch and paved it, then you would at
could go over
least,
this one.
you would at least have a little more room, you wouldn't be into a big ditch.
So move it westerly?
Well, I guess.
Southern.
Southerly, I think.
Well, it's,
I don't know.
I don't
It
know,
runs
southerly
north-south.
west, it's towards the ledge road,
Right,
Yeah,
which would be
that's
on the
the
south
ledge road
side,
on the ledge road side.
121 is basically east-west.
And he also wanted to put in drainage, there's drainage put in at Beck's Bridge all the way up through when they did that project. But he thinks, as well as I do, this plugged, it's not working. So he wanted to dig that up to see if it's working.
Did he give a cost to that? No?
No, he didn't.
Okay, so just like, it's on Charlie Gates' side of the road, he wants to go that direction. Okay.
So those are the three that you discussed, but you're taking away paving money in order to do the whole job.
Well, give me an example of something that's just paving and we're not doing anything else.
Well, it's either that or wait another year. But
But I don't know, how many spots in this town can you simply pave?
well, the village is another one that's real bad.
Yeah, the village.
That's another one. The Townsend Road, you've got to keep your eye on that, because all that was, was just that much all the way out through there, and that's not gonna last. And the Chester Road, I asked him, I said, how long is that gonna last before it looks like the one in Chester looked like? And he said, not that long. And he noticed, I think, this year, that it's starting to break up pretty good, so I don't think you got over a year or two before that starts breaking up.
What's the, I don't travel from in and out of Grafton, this way I was going. What's the travel pattern? Is more of our traffic from the village to Chester or more from the village to Bellas Falls?
I think it's to Chester now, because Chester fixed theirs, and ours is not that bad.
And remember too, that anybody who lives in the town, Ludlow area or works over that, they have to go 35 through Grafton. There's no way to go around unless you go, through Londonderry and that Route 100 there. That's-
Well, I'd hate to see the paving go another year or 2 years, because it just deteriorates and everything else, but I hate to see them put all this money into construction when it's not paving.
Well, if you had $300,000 now and you waited another year, you'd have $400,000. And then if you got the grant from the town, what would that be? From the state, assuming, would that be $150,000?
175.
Yeah,
Okay, so you got over $500,000 if you waited a whole year, assuming you got the
We got
grant.
more money, but it doesn't change anything, you're still using paving money.
But the 300,000 also is in the budget for the budget period we just budgeted for.
Yeah, by July 1st.
By July
The
1st, that's the
300
300,
is the carryover from this year,
plus,
100 of our own money.
right.
Okay, well,
So
okay.
with that 300, if you got a grant for, you'd be at 470, yeah, you'd be at 4, depending on the grant, it's 425.
We're not really,
John, I hear what you're saying, but it sort of seems like splitting hairs. If the money is in there to do paving, and if you have to do some prep work first before you pave, what's the problem? I mean, it's all part of the job, it's just not all blacktop. Putting in that sub base so your blacktop lasts longer is good use of your money, rather than just keep putting blacktop on and you gotta do it much more frequently.
But what the problem is, the price of asphalt has gone up so much that I don't know what it is now, but I imagine a mile is over $100,000.
But gravel and excavating and all of that has gone up too, so.
Right, but if you take it out of that, it narrows your paving down so that you're not gonna do, a mile and a half at most.
But what you do, it's done right though.
Do what?
If you do it that
Oh,
way,
yeah,
it's done properly.
gonna
And
last.
it's gonna last long.
But I go with that, I don't recommend that you pave over
Right.
that. I'm just saying, is there some other way that we can do this work without taking down the paving?
Well, what Bill said is right. There isn't a road in town that you can just pave. So If you do,
Townsend Road's the only one.
yeah, but I mean, if you do any of these projects for 240, then next year, unless you get a grant, you're not gonna have a lot of money left over. So you're gonna really not pay for another 2 years after that.
No, that's not true.
Why?
If you spent 240 this year.
Yeah, you got 300.
Okay, just using those rough figures, you'd have 600 left over carried over. You have another 100,000.
160,000, not 600.
60,000.
Right.
Okay, and then you've added another 100,000 for
160.
next year, that's 160,
Yeah.
plus the 175.
Assume you get it.
No, you will get it.
Yeah, you will get it.
Oh, it's a
Or if you-
definite?
Or if you don't get it, next year you can wait. But my humble opinion, you can't wait a year on that Chester Road.
I don't think so either.
But I think what we gotta do is get some estimates as to how much it's gonna cost to do like the Chester Road or Wyndham Mountain.
So Wyndham Mountain, to me, is the least road that you should do. I mean, honestly and truly, I use it when I go to Manchester 2 times a year or 5 times a year. And I understand, I know that
Use
there
it
are,
all the time.
huh, do you?
Use it all the time, go to Weston. you know.
Yeah, if you're going all the time, but I mean, the main majority of the traffic really is on 35 and
I understand
121.
it, but what about the truck traffic? You mentioned where people mostly traveling over Chester Hill rather than coming down 121. There's a lot of truck traffic. I mean, we hear it up on the hill. And then log trucks.
Oh, there's a lot of trucks, well, 35, they all use that. You know,
So
and,
that beats your roads up too.
yeah, well, nothing you can do but that, but you're right. I mean, there's a lot of, 35 is a lot of traffic. I mean, I don't know, with 35, with 121, it's probably a toss-up, actually.
So you met with
The state can
Dan.
give you those numbers.
You
the whole
met
council.
with Dan, and you went over, like, you said you had 5 different criteria or roads that were significant. What's Danny's thought on each one?
I don't think that we ever came up with one spot at all, because I mentioned the same thing to him about the construction that has to be done, and if there was some other place that you could find some money. And one of the thoughts that I had was the culvert up on Hinkley Brook. If you get the grant for that, then you've got enough money to do it. So in the capital budget, there's $60,000 that you were gonna use if you didn't get the grant. So if you get the grant, that's 60.
But you're gonna get the grant.
Well, I don't know this.
As far as I know, the culvert on
We
Hinkley Brook.
applied for it, but we
No,
don't.
no, that's a foregone, isn't it?
Hinkley Brook Culvert, there's 175,000 in the capital budget to do it according to my capital budget people.
But that's
Okay,
you.
time out. We got 110, so 175 minus 110, so we had 60, roughly $60,000 that we need to raise, 65,000. We had asked for another grant for 60. That culvert should cost us around 24, our share for those 2 grants.
Cost you what?
24,000. So if we have 175 in there, there's 150,000 right there.
In where?
In the
Capital?
In the capital budget for Hinkley Brook Culvert, there's 175,000 according to Hardy. That's what he told me. But we're gonna get 110,000, and we possibly could get 60,000. So we can get $170,000 toward that culvert. And therefore, we're only spending 5 or so. Well, actually, we're gonna spend 24 because that's our share. So we won't take.
You've got 110 that you're getting from the state.
Yeah.
There's sitting in the capital budget, 60, I haven't got the capital budget right, but 60-something thousand dollars. That if you didn't get your grant that you applied for, that would make up the difference.
Okay, but that's not what he told me.
Well, that's what it is. Now, I'm on the committee, and and he volunteered that a couple of times.
Okay, so
To
then,
he'll make up the difference if you don't get your
okay,
grant from the
then
state.
he didn't make it clear to me. Okay, so if that's the case, then we hope to get the second grant to meet that. So our full cost up there, because we have to, we can't take the full grant. We have to spend 10% on the in addition, so we have to, what's in $11,000 we have to spend out of the V-Trans grant, so that makes that 100, that makes 121. And then if we get, the rest of it is covered by that grant, but if that grant is more than it cost us, then you scale that back. We have to pay 20% of that next, whatever it is.
Is there time limits on that culvert?
2 years.
Is it has to be replaced? Any other alternatives on that culvert?
mean,
You could leave it there and have it blow out in the,
But you already got the money to do it, so you have to do it now. don't you?
That's not what I asked, I asked
Yeah.
other ways of repairing it without replacing the whole culvert.
no, the H&H says, if you want to replace a culvert, you ask the state to give you the hydraulics and hydrology, you got to follow it or don't do nothing. That's it.
Yeah, they don't give you a choice, you have to do what they tell you to do.
You can make it bigger.
Or leave it alone, like you said.
Or leave it alone, but you already have 110,000 they're gonna give us, so it would be silly not to take it, and that's what the board decided to do.
But you're assuming that it's gonna cost $175,000.
It may cost us a lot less
You
now.
may-
I've talked to a lot of people who are, I have, now have 12 people bidding, or getting, asking for the bid, including Gurney, Palmer. Gurney and Palmer asked today, and then 2 people the other day, so that's 4. I originally sent it out to 8. And people are actually reading the ad.
Yeah, I saw the ad, it was in the shopper.
Yeah.
And
Very
those-
seldom do you get anything out of the ads, but people must be hungry, so that's good.
And they're due, the bids are due when?
Well, there's a site visit,
March
I
30th or something like that?
don't know, coming up. isn't it?
Site visit's the 30th. I think they have to have it in to me. I think you're gonna do it approximately whatever that second week in April is, the second meeting in April. That's when you're gonna award it, and they're due it to me the Thursday before. So what is in April?
So the point, what you're trying to say is that if we got all the money from the state,
Yeah.
the 2 grants, and we only have to come up with $20,000, let's say, or less, depending on what the bids come in at.
Mhm.
You want to use some of that capital money to do some of the other
Well,
culverts?
that's what I'd do,
you're
is go
saying?
to Hardy and ask him if he couldn't have that money to.
To do some of the, help, not with the paving, but with the culvert money.
I see that what you're saying is let's figure,
But
do it separately.
You see, Cal, the money that they're getting from the state for this culvert up there will not do any other culvert in Grafton because it isn't big enough. Because there's other culverts that probably should be done before that one. But they're like $250,000 or so you can't do it. That's just my thoughts on the thing that maybe you should look at, so you don't spend all the paving money on construction.
Well,
You just can't pave the roads fast enough.
No, Hardy doesn't come back until, I think, the end of this month, I think. So, you don't have an answer, but I think the reason why we're talking about it now, at least I talked to Bill about it, and maybe you talked to Dan, is that we need to, what's gonna happen if we don't get the bid out soon enough, they'll end up doing paving in October again, like we did last time. So we try to get the bids out, so maybe we can get on the list, you know what I mean? So the question is, can we make a decision so that we can decide what we wanna do and then put them out for bids and then make that decision, or do you wanna put this on?
Well, can we at least decide what our priority is?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to.
But you really need an estimate of how much this construction is gonna cost on these different projects.
Well, that's, what Danny wants
Right.
it's a 2-step thing. Even before your question, do you want to pave this year? And I think you gotta, but that's just me. The second is, if so, what is your priority? He will then give you good estimates on the cost of what will really fix that thing, and then bring that back to you with some alternatives. So we can fix it this way and it'll cost this, and fix it this way and it'll cost that. That's what he wants to do. That's what he told me today.
So he's looking for us to give him number 1 and number 2.
Do you want to do it, which one?
Yeah.
And he will come back to you with what it will cost to do that one. Or all 3 of them, he'll give you price on all three of them, if you have three or if you have five, whatever you have.
He acted to me like the one down Cambridgeport way, he would do that, the ditches. So that's gonna be, so that's gonna be,
The one beyond Ledge Road.
In-house project,
yeah, so that would, like he did down by,
Jock Hill.
Jock
Check
Hill.
out with the
So
flood.
that would be considerably cheaper to do that. So,
Well,
I make a motion that we tell Danny, our first priority is 35 to Chester, our second priority is, down by the Beck Bridge.
Route 121.
Beck Bridge, and our third priority is Wyndham Hill.
and he mentioned the village too, so you maybe want to make that fourth priority. That is really,
What are we doing?
those back streets. are-
back School Street,
Yeah.
back, it's not so bad now, boy, in the wintertime, that's awful.
School in Pleasant.
That was done when you and I were on this, back 20 years ago.
School in
It was done
Pleasant.
when we did the whole town, you remember?
That was done that Morelski was
Oh,
working
yeah,
for.
oh, yeah, I remember, yeah, that's right.
John, school in Pleasant.
Well, it's School in Pleasant, yeah, and the whole streets, I mean, the red is what they do at the same time, the whole thing.
Remember, they only did from the town hall to,
The bridge down there,
Okay, so all those side streets over there.
yeah. How far is the Chester Road? Do you know what that measured?
It's,
a mile and a half.
it's, I have the measurement from, we have that done, because we put in for it last year. And it is,
Was it from Eastman to,
1.75, something like that.
from Eastman turn to Ellsworth? Is that where it was?
No, from the Chester line.
The line to Ellsworth to the culvert.
Probably is 1.7.
1.7 or 8.
The only problem with doing that is on that hill though, all those guardrails are caving in.
No, we're not doing that. We're not going that far.
Well, I'm just saying, if you go from Eastman to there,
Oh, the next
Oh,
one, but see, that gets into what John's saying, now you're talking about moving the road.
oh yeah, we were gonna move it over to the
Yeah, but
right-hand side. I mean,
That's not $100,000 project.
Oh, yeah. But if you're gonna do it, you can't just
No, you gotta.
not do that.
Someday, somebody's gonna say something about those guardrails.
Absolutely.
And you can't
They're all-
put the normal length guardrails in over there. You've got to put 10 to 12 footers because of that bank.
Right.
Okay, I want to add to your, with your permission.
Nobody seconded it.
What, okay, but that's gotta happen, but the first thing is, A, pave this year, because you can make these decisions, but you're not making a decision you want to pave this year. So
So just add,
A
pave this
is
year.
pave this year, and then B, these are the priority.
Well, I think, doesn't
It-
it depend on what comes back, what kind of numbers he comes back with? whether
Numbers
we're gonna do
plus
it
how
this
long
year
it's
or
gonna
not?
take. It's
Right.
gonna take a minute to do that on Chester Road.
You got $300,000.
Yeah, but it costs 125 for a mile of pavement. So you're up
It's
to
220. 220, we've already done it, it's 220
What's 220?
to Ellsworth. I have the thing, I have all the figures
What's
downstairs.
220?
$220,000 to pay to Ellsworth.
From Eastman to Ellsworth.
No, from
Town line.
Ellsworth to the
Town
town line.
line,
From
town
Ellsworth,
line to Ellsworth,
it's 200,
220,000.
That's just paving over what's there, that's not
No,
building.
that's bull magging the
That's
whole
whole
thing.
magging and paving.
And bull magging and cloth.
Now, but paving might go down, oil prices are really low.
almost on there.
So it might be a little cheaper this year. I mean, the oil's at $30-some odd dollars a barrel.
And we can send out the bid and not do it.
And I'm sure that's gonna be the spots that they wanna add the gravel.
The other good thing too is though, if you have a bigger job, you might get, other than Springfield paving, well, there's no more Springfield paving, but you might get a bigger company to do it, which might do a better price. I don't know.
But before this is all said and done, the Vermont Highway is gonna be pulling back on their tax dollars, because all these ski areas that are shut down, and the gas taxes, the hotel taxes.
Oh, that could be.
When all of that hits up there, there's gonna be a big deficit in our tax collection.
Everybody's escaping to come up here in New York.
I'd like to see some cost.
Yeah, but let's
But that's why
make
we're
the
setting
motion so
priority,
that Danny
right,
can
for
come
him
back
to
with
do
the
that.
question, with the things. Who's gonna second him?
I'll second it, we're gonna correct it, right?
A, pave this year, B, the first priority is 35, second, Beck Bridge on to past lead, 121, Wyndham is third, and the village is fourth.
Well, I don't know if I want it paved this year, it depends on what he says. If he can prep it, and if we vote this,
Yeah.
give him priority, at next meeting, can he give us an answer, and then we make a decision at the next meeting?
Okay.
That makes sense.
So you withdrawing your motion?
No, I'm not withdrawing, I'm just not adding what
Oh,
Bill
okay.
wanted.
Anyway, right. No, I agree with what Alan's saying.
Yeah, that's-
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to do anything unless you know what's gonna cost.
Correct.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Let me just finish this here and then we'll
I was
get
just gonna
rich.
say that.
We got a V-Trans certificate, we gotta sign that thing, where is that?
Return certificate is
Who
here.
signs this?
Everybody's got to sign those two pages.
Why don't you start with Kathy?
There's this page to sign and this page to sign. And then I'll date it and everything.
And the other item is the trees and brush into traffic.
As clerk,
No, don't worry about that, at the top.
Was there a letter?
Just tell me, is that, Danny and I will get a letter to all those people that Danny's gonna cut the brush, and they can talk to Danny about it, from the fire department to T,
Right.
on that side of the road. He will stop and talk to Lawrence if he sees him out there. But otherwise, I want to get your direction to send it to all of those houses all along there. That's Danny's request.
That's okay by me. Is that what everybody else?
Yeah, I asked for that quite a while ago.
Yeah, okay.
Well, yes and no.
That was a particular property, right?
Yeah.
Right. Sort of.
But then as we got.
So we don't need a motion for that, do we?
No, okay, okay, all right.
All right, Rich, you wanna
Hop in.
hop in here?
I don't know. What am I don't know if I'm on, I had a comment, I don't think you're ready for that now. What are you, what's the first?
Is this what you want to talk about, the health officer thing?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, all of you have it. Should have it in front of you. somewhere.
You saw the policy of the health officer, right?
Yep,
Are you okay with this?
yes, yep.
Okay. Do you have any comment about it or anything?
Not on that.
I just want to add that our committee, we developed the 12 recommendations, we've had several meetings, and we gave all that information to Bill, we need a policy, and he came up with the policy that coordinates with the 12 recommendations. So I thank the committee and I thank Bill for doing that.
What is that on 5? There's a thing in brackets, not sure what everything after and means.
Because on the recommendation, we're following the septic policy and
Yeah.
ordinance, and in that ordinance, if you read it, has a ticketing system.
Right.
Which is not used. My understanding.
Yep.
Okay. There wasn't no ticketing system, basically, we have no ticketing system,
Right.
because we're not registered with the Judicial Bureau. If we want to do tickets, we have to start from the beginning and get a ticketing system.
Well, if we're not gonna use tickets, why is it written in here on this thing we just
So
about
it
to
should
sign?
probably be deleted.
We're about to sign it.
Because you can get tickets. All you're gonna do is, somebody go
You
to
want tickets?
Well,
Yes
we,
or no?
yes.
Yeah, I think you should have
Yes.
tickets.
Okay,
Yep.
then if you want tickets,
Yep.
I'm gonna get tickets, then this would apply, right?
I think you should have tickets.
It's not so-
Especially now that
Yeah,
the
no, I-
potential is going out and getting.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we'll use them a lot, but they should be in place, yes.
Exactly.
Agree.
All right, so I guess if everybody's happy with this thing, we need a motion to accept the
No.
policies, unless there's more discussion.
No, just if we're gonna do that, we wanna make sure that they're not sure what everything in
Yeah.
means. That gets scrapped out and
Yeah.
then,
Ted's gotta redo this.
and then we can,
Do you
If
wanna
that's
sign,
changed,
do you wanna sign a corrected copy, or do you wanna sign this and initial it or something.
No, let me correct it, and then I'll
Yeah,
give you guys a sign.
Yep.
Can we, can we make a motion that we're going to sign it and then have it downstairs and we just sign it as we come in rather than wait till the next meeting?
It's like,
A motion to approve it, to be signed later.
Correct. You wanna make that motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I wanted,
So just come back when you're in, next time the warrants or when you're in the office, just sign the thing, it'll be on the desk.
I wanted Rich, because now he's the full town health officer to have a policy.
Yes.
So
Okay.
as far as, excuse me, as far as the ticketing, the logistics of setting it up, I can do the footwork on it, or someone, how did you want to handle
You and I need to talk about it.
Okay, all right.
Do you have anything you wanna talk about the coronavirus and the plan and all this kind of stuff while you're here? Everybody's all nervous and you
Yep.
don't have a plan and we this and that and so I mean, we as a select board don't really have this authority to do, I mean, we're not mayors and whatever, so, but obviously we have the health officer, and we have the AMS, and we have the church, and we have the Grafton Cares, but do you have any input or?
I mean, the fire department's prepared, the EMS, of course, is prepared. I guess my only possible suggestion would be, if things do go on for an extended period of time, if people are gonna need, you know, run over the Walgreens to get their prescription filled or whatever, I don't know if you wanna put out a robocall at some point. We have that robocall service now to say, you know, if you do need some kind of assistance or whatever, you know, you can leave my number if you want. I'll be in town for the foreseeable future now that the school is closed down. Or something, I mean, that, short of that, unless if, unfortunately, something bad happens, I mean, we're just kind of, I think we'll hunker down as much as we possibly can be.
Let me just make one comment on that. Everybody's aware that the men's group at the church thing has been working on this thing. And we've actually, I think today, I don't know if Mary came back, and we've actually, we're in the process now, we've already got the names, address, we developed a vulnerable population.
Oh, good, okay.
At-risk list.
Okay.
And, well, actually, we met on this past Saturday
Yeah.
to nail this thing down. And we took a combination, Bill had drafted a letter a couple of days ago having to do with the town's position on this. This group took Bill's letter and modified it somewhat to include the vulnerable population. We made a couple of changes in it. I gave it to Bill to reread because he did do the first letter. He read the letter that was proposed to be sent out. He was fine with it. We've also developed a sign-up sheet that's also going to go out with this letter that people can fill out, and it has, if they have special needs or if they need rides or whatever. We had those done today in color.
Oh, nice. Yep.
Bill did 50 of those, and we have a list of about somewhere around, it's in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 people that these letters are going out to. They're all been stuffed, they're in envelopes, they're ready to go. I have to talk to Mary at the church, and she took a map, and there's like 5 different sections, so 5 people will go out. My original thought was mailing them, so you didn't have that so-called, you know, sort of direct contact type of thing, but she felt as though that by hand delivering them, and it is,
This is the one you're talking about?
yes, yep. So anyway, that is in place, and a lot of that also says if you need shopping to be done, if you need prescriptions picked up, if you need other people notified, it's part of, hopefully we're covered. And the rationale that the men's group or the church got involved with it is we felt as though certainly the fire department and EMS got enough to do. You know, just stuff that you guys have got going on, so. And Bill and I talked today as part of it, if this thing grows bigger, not this thing in particular, but if there's a flood and all of a sudden there's a chain of command through the incident command system type of thing, this group would become part of that, responding to the operations group, and they could make phone calls and things, so I think we're heading in the right direction finally.
And I'll leave it personally, if you, in the next couple of weeks, if you need help with something like that, give me a call and I'll be willing to. Good deal.
The other thing the church is doing is setting up kind of like a food shelter
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
To deliver some groceries for folks. And MKT is doing backpacks for kids.
Yep. Yeah, okay.
With food items, but the school next week will start doing
Right.
breakfasts and
Yeah.
lunches that can be picked up at certain points. I don't know what those points are yet, but they're working on it.
I mean, I honestly don't know what else we could really do at this point, to be totally honest.
June told me to tell you that besides the backpacks for the kids, if anybody needs any food, they will
I saw that on Facebook.
They will give it, they will give them out. If you need special meals, they'll make them for you, whatever, so. And they've closed the cafe, so you can go in and get your coffee or food, but you can't drink it and stay in there. And then if you don't want to go in, you just call them and they will bring the food out to your thing. So if you need, they're going to have special foods, they'll do anything for you, so if people don't want to travel to shores or whatever, they're going, so.
Can I ask, Stan?
Yep.
So are you also gonna make sure that those 7 or 8 home care agencies know that you guys are doing this?
Yes, I gave that to Mary today, and I showed her that list, and I told her you had made some sort of a broad general contact, so they're aware that something may come of it.
Okay,
She has that list.
okay, I will make sure she contacts them.
Yeah, oh, no, yes, I just wanted her to know that you had sort of primed her.
Okay, are you gonna tell her that, have her contact?
I told her that, she knows that already, I already gave her the list, and she knows it.
Yeah,
Yes.
because if they know that, then they'll know, they can take care of their own people, but if they can't, they know to call you, that was.
Yes, yes.
So we got the whole idea of that list that they have, it works both ways, they can call you, you can call them, either way.
Yep.
And I also got emails from Senior Solutions
Yeah, I saw
that
that.
I can send to Mary, you can send it to the seniors.
I sent that around already to everybody, so it's,
For Senior Solutions?
yeah. Because I wanted them to know that the food, I sent it to the Grafton residents one, which Mary Ann, then McDonald sends on, and it has all the food places, whether they're open, whether they're drive-through, and so on and so forth.
Well, this was different from Senior Solutions that I got, some agent.
Oh, okay, well, this
Just saying.
this was like a press release, telling the people what stores were open in Ludlow, Springfield, Chester, and a couple other places, which ones you could drive through to get your food, and all this stuff.
That's Meals on Wheels kind of stuff.
Well, it was seniors, it came from Senior Solutions.
I had another one,
Okay,
but I'll send it to Mary,
okay,
and Rich, if you want it.
okay.
Do you have anything else, Rich, that you need to?
Unrelated, if you want to hear it now. I was just kind of curious if someone could at some point look up, I know you get a lot of stuff on your plate, but, so it's not a huge pressing thing, but what relationship or contract we have with the Sheriff's Department? Excuse me.
What do you mean by that?
What exactly are the details of it, and what services that they give us? The reason why I ask is, I know they have like an a la carte type system there, or a gun for hire, whatever name you want to put on it, but there are times that we go out on calls, and recently why this is coming up, there was one the other day that, and I'm not denigrating the state police whatsoever, what the resources they have, they do a great job, blah, blah, blah. But when they get tied up on something that they can't break away from, they're not showing up here. And then we're put into the situation is we're playing cop. And it's very uncomfortable. So far, knock wood, we've had enough younger muscle guys around when this has happened that we were able to overpower the situation. But that's not a situation I want to put any of these guys in. It's not where we should be in. And the other night it happened that we had a drunk and we had a muscle guy, and because the state police were tied up. And I'd like some kind of relationship potentially with the sheriff's department. I know that's another resource that I can pull in. And we may have that now, that I don't know. I don't know what our relationship with the sheriff's department is.
My question would be, doesn't the state police have some relationship with the county sheriff, that if the state police can't respond, they would call the county sheriff and say, hey, guys, can you cover for us?
In a lot of instances, as we learned with the Matrix building and so many other, we're on our own. We are on our own. It is what it is.
The contract we have is only for speeding.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the sheriff, the new guy who took over came to see us a couple of months back and said, anytime you want him to come, he'd be willing to come. So we should invite him to come to the next meeting. You
Good
can
idea.
come and see what kind of service they provide, and whether it's free or whether we have to have another contract.
I think we should invite Lieutenant French and him at the same time.
Yeah,
Right.
do both.
I've already written that down.
And then so that you could be here, or whoever from your department, so you can explain the situation, because I think that's absolutely ridiculous, that you have to deal with, I mean, you shouldn't be the police and the fire department, I'm sorry,
Well, you know,
it just doesn't work.
I'd like you guys to revisit it, that would be great,
Yeah.
please. And again, it's not a reflection on the state police, I mean, they are as thin as anybody else is. And if they're on something, you know, in White River, guess what? It's gonna take them an hour to get here, it is what it is.
But
you
that
know?
puts that makes you the policeman.
It's a
that's
place
not
I
fair.
don't wanna be. Huh?
I mean, you know, if it's just a punch, it's one thing, but what happens if the gun comes out? You know what I mean?
Well, that's right, you know, and it's at the point, after a couple of incidents we had, I don't know, about a year and a half now, I guess, that I started carrying an expandable billy club. I mean, I go direct to a scene and I'm out there 10, 15 minutes by myself before anybody shows up. At 2 o'clock in the morning, does it happen a lot here? It doesn't happen a lot here, but it's happened enough in the last couple of years that I don't feel 100% safe.
Well, you almost got run over in one call.
Right.
You almost got run over in one call.
Damn right. It was a druggie that passed out in his car, and I thought the guy was dead. So I walked up, back, knocked on his thing, and he came alive. He got scared, and he put it to the board and almost ran me over. Then he turned around, come back down the hill, and Keith tried to stop him and almost ran him over. So yeah, it does. You know, everybody thinks Grafton, that don't happen to him. Guess what? It happens. We don't see it a lot. We absolutely don't see it a lot, but I can tell you, in the last couple of years, we've had a fair share of that. I wish there was the cavalry coming at some point, you
We
know?
need to have the cavalry come, and we can do that. I mean, I had no idea that was the situation.
Well, what actually, and I'll just mention it, they ended up, they had to put an extra guy, and it happened to be Rich, was in the back of the ambulance with them going to Springfield Hospital, because they only come with 2 people, 1 driver and 1 attendant. And when they got to Springfield Hospital, somebody was at least smart enough, they called Springfield PD. So
Yeah, they
Springfield
were waiting for
PD
us.
met him at the hospital.
Good.
And you were saying that got a little dicey.
It did. I mean, he started to get an attitude with the cop. The cop was having none of that.
Right.
But
So
no.
at least when I got to the hospital, and that's the problem. You take a drunk, that these guys have got to wrestle down, get them into the ambulance, and what do? You deliver to an emergency room at the hospital.
And we've had a few drug-related cases out here that we had to handle ourselves. It doesn't happen often. It's not a weekly
It
thing.
happens once, it's too many times.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I look at it.
So if I had the ability to know that, okay, KMA gets back to me and says, you know, SP is tied up wherever, and they're gonna be 45 minutes out, at least I got the ability to say, okay, let's call the local sheriff. I mean, the best thing, I guess my ideal situation is, any kind of call it even, but you don't know what the call will be until you get there. I guess my absolute best situation would be, most calls we go out in, they're at least heading in our direction. I mean, that might be a little, too utopian thought, but, you know, that would be the nicest thing.
And then let's, we gotta move
Oh, yeah,
on.
good, good.
We'll just invite them and
Good.
you guys can come and that'll be it. Do you wanna stay and finish this other thing about the EMC and EM's weekly conference call and the location for select board meetings?
All I wanted on the coronavirus, I gave you, you got it. You got the report I sent, that's it.
Okay, so the only thing we need to do, and as long as we're here, let's clean it up, is where we wanna have future select board meetings.
Let me just say this to the first point, and that's all that needs to be said. I sent it out to you.
Okay,
I also sent to Rich and to Stan and to Keith and said, make sure you read that whole thing. There are parts that apply just to you guys, and you guys take care of them, and they did.
okay.
And so that's why I sent it out, and I'll try to do that. I have to come in on Fridays at 2 o'clock, make those calls. Or I can do it from home if no one wants to sit in, or you come to my shop and call from there. The location of future select board meetings.
Yeah, I mean, what do you want, do you want to continue to have them here until further notice? The next one is 3 weeks from now, which will be April 6th, I think.
Are we,
I mean, I don't think it's gonna be over in 3 weeks, quite frankly.
No, I think it's
So
fine.
maybe we should just have it here again. But I don't know legalities of having it here because you don't have a handicap. That's what bothers me. Not that,
that's one of
Well,
my questions.
yeah,
Until you get a complaint, you can do it.
The only thing I know, up to the town garage, I went up there Friday, just as soon as I opened the door, I got hit.
yeah, they don't want anybody up there. So, I mean, that,
I have,
That-
you know, what's the selectmen doing, why are they gonna have the meetings up here, and
I mean, that's not their call, it's our call.
I know that, but
But the point is, do you want to go up there and have it, or do you want to do it here temporarily until the thing? I mean, that's what we need to decide.
Well, what about the school? The school's unoccupied.
No, you don't want to go in there, Kathy. The school is.
I would try to keep as much out
That's
as
worse.
possible.
The reason we thought here, the bugs are already here. Let's just keep the bugs here. Now, I have to come here every day, people have to come here every day, everybody.
I mean,
that
we're
would come
here-
to the
all of us
meeting
come
would
here every
day. Why change our bugs to anywhere else? Just keep them here.
If I can interrupt, do you guys have a conferencing telephone deal? Because we got one at the firehouse, you're more than welcome to use that too.
No, we have one,
Well,
but I don't know how many went to. Now, I'm also looking into Zoom, which if you want to explain, which meeting's over.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
I sent you guys, you
I
can watch.
have no idea what it is.
So do you want to just say we'll meet here
Here.
for the next meeting
Yes.
until further notice?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe it wouldn't hurt to, contact the LCT or somebody and just let them know that we realize there's a handicap issue, but because of the virus, we think this is the safest.
Can I suggest, Ross?
But maybe it's better not to ask for.
Yeah, ask you.
Maybe it's better not to ask for.
No, I wouldn't even ask. I wouldn't even ask, but if you read this, the legislature now is wrestling with this whole open meeting law thing, because they don't know what to do about it with open meeting and having the public come in and all that stuff. So I suggest we wait and see what the legislature does. They might come up with some rules and regulations, I don't know.
I think the ultimate bottom line is, no matter how many people get sick and how many people pass away, we still have to run the town.
Yeah.
You still gotta come up with some plan to run the town.
Well, I don't disagree,
And whatever that is, we gotta think about that.
but I mean, I think we're safe here for now.
Hold it here.
If we just keep it here
No
for now, and I
further
wouldn't call anybody, I just
But
keep
can
the
we
meeting.
do it, can we go back to 6 o'clock?
Yeah, we could do it at 6 o'clock, that's fine.
Especially when golf season starts,
Well-
you're not gonna wanna be sitting here in the middle of golf day, right?
Well, in the summer, it's at night.
we have it on Monday, so.
The only thing I asked is that you might want to have another table to distance ourselves.
Well, I was going to,
Further.
what I said to do is do this and separate them further, but we can move another table over, yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. Thanks, Kathy, good idea. All right, let's go back to the agenda. The flood damage prevention regulations subdivisions, we need to send this over to the planning commission.
No, you're gonna,
We're gonna adopt it, that's what we thought.
period.
you need me for anything else, Bill?
No, thanks, Rick.
I was at the planning commission meeting the other night and did tell them that the bill had already updated
Yep,
the wording to reflect what is actual and not what it used to be,
right.
so they know about it.
Let me just say, they discussed it. There's nothing in the minutes written by Dave, nothing in the minutes about these two things, nor did anybody call me and ask me what we're gonna do. And I asked them specifically to discuss it, and if they had any comment, to send it, and no one has bothered to send any comment.
So why don't we make a motion to accept these things?
To approve them
Then we to
and
approve
adopt them.
Can I have a question before we do that?
Yep.
Where's the enforcement with all these regs?
That enforcement is through the judicial, through the court.
Yet, you said previously,
Good.
not specific to this, but Grafton has no enforcement.
That's correct.
And-
Because under our ordinances, all your ordinances say you're gonna find somebody, but you have no way to find anybody. You can take them to court, I guess, even under those ordinances, but that's a long drawn out thing, and it's very ineffective.
It's costly too.
It's costly, and you gotta have an attorney to take it and everything else. The ticket system, you can add a paragraph to these. And if we get a ticket system, we might then add a paragraph to these and allow it to be enforced by the ticket system, which goes to the Judicial Bureau in White River Junction. The nice thing about it is, you give a ticket, it's like getting a traffic ticket. It's for $50, but if you pay it right away, it's only 25. People pay it right away, and they don't want to get a second one, so they start paying attention. That's generally what 90% of the people have made a mistake and haven't listened to your warning. Finally you have to give them a ticket, but after the third or fourth, but it works good. But it is a different system. This goes to the courts. The appeal from my decision on what they can do goes to the DRB. That's generally how all subdivisions get to the DRB. They are technically an appeal for my decision. And then the same with flood. All the flood stuff has to go through what they call conditional use permit, and that's what, if you're gonna build in the floodplain, it has to go through them, meet the conditions of the law and be approved by the DRB.
So right now, you're just putting DRB in there rather than PC.
That's it. There's 125 changes in the subdivision regs, I think, because it says DRB 125 times, but in the flood regs it's about 6 or 7 changes. But that's the only change, just changing it from the planning commission to DRB. And in the flood regs, they call it the planning commission the flood zoning board, or I guess they had a flood zoning board. That's gone.
Make a motion that we approve the amendment to name DRB as hearing board in each regulation.
Second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
I abstain. I want to read it. I haven't had this, so I just,
And who seconded?
John?
John. And we have 4 and 1 abstention.
We jumped ahead.
Yeah, the
Discussion regarding delinquent taxes, I
Yeah.
actually asked to put it on there.
right,
That, I have no other way to say than the show that took place at town meeting, I thought was poor. And there seemed to be misleading information that was given to the people. I came away from that feeling the whole thing was done to discredit the select board and discredit the town clerk and tax collector. I think we should write something to the Grafton News and say, look, it was on there as a suggestion of the professional auditor that we hire to not just count the dollars and account for the numbers, but to keep us out of trouble. And the reason that was worded that way was based on things that have happened in other towns. We've been very fortunate. We haven't had the issue of Grafton, but They're looking at things that have happened in other towns and saying, we recommend you do this. And so we pay those people pretty good money for recommendations.
Did you guys already get this?
Yeah, at least I think everybody got this.
I put that.
Delinquent tax collector?
Yeah, 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 I got it right here someplace.
This is here. If you-
Yeah, I have,
This was written after I talked to the accountant.
Right.
And he isn't so worried about the accounting for money, though that is a concern, and it has screwed up our accounts because of the way some things have happened. But it was basically depositing money in the bank 2 days late on July 1st or 2nd instead of on June 29th or 30th, and therefore the count was all off for the year, and it could have been done. But he said the biggest thing is you're paying 8% for somebody to do nothing, to make a phone call, because you do all the work. NEMRIC does all the work for you. Michelle actually does all the work. She's the one that puts in the numbers. She's the one that does all the reports. All she does with the report is send it to Jan, and Jan gets 8% for collecting the money. So he says, why would you do that? You don't really need that person, because that person doesn't have to gather information, doesn't have to do anything. It just
The numbers that they use themselves for the argument, if you did the math on it, she said she had collected $1 million, and I used 20 years because it makes the math easier instead of 21. But that's what, I did this one, sorry. $50,000 a year collected in taxes, 8%, you know, the $80,000 that she collected as a revenue on that money. And if you use the $1,500 stipend that Michelle was gonna get and do the math in a 20-year period, that's $30,000, $50,000 that comes to the town. And that whole argument made no sense to me. And I sat and watched too, that bothered me. And I think we owe it to the taxpayers of Grafton to some kind of straightforward explanation of why those things were in there. And
you're talking about the articles?
yeah, all those 3 of those articles.
My question, you had a conversation with the auditor about this? I've read these. 2019 June, 2018 June,
2015.
or whatever.
2015 is what you'll find it.
2015. Well, I wasn't. And I read these over and I said, where does it say that they wanted a change in the delinquent tax collector?
No, it was that, but you couldn't do anything until the term expired. That's why it was put off when she retired.
So this was in 15.
Yeah. There was a recommendation
It
back
was the
then.
2015 audit, so that would have been 2016. Yeah, it was 2015, 2016. It
So
isn't, and
So you're talking about
I have the
back
letters.
then when she put the deposits in late?
Yeah,
Way back then?
way back.
Okay. I think, from what I'm getting just from these two here, is you gotta be real careful about the internal controls.
Exactly.
Who's watching what, what's going in, what's going out, and there was a lot of corrections because they were overdoing it at some point. Somebody's correcting it, either an audit or one of the persons in charge or a select board person. So there was,
No, select board
There was a
doesn't do
lot
any
of
of
it.
that.
well, if you read the report, select board did.
How does select board
Go
get
over
involved?
go over the figures with either the treasurer or the clerk and make corrections.
I don't remember ever taking
It's
it.
right in here.
I don't remember.
I mean,
ever taking it.
I read it over and over again. But he, you know, he was, from every report, these 2 years, he's saying the same thing about internal
Right.
control.
Yep.
And how to fix it.
Mhm.
And I know when I look at the budgets, and it's very confusing. I can't even do my checkbook sometimes, but it's a lot of numbers, and what he's saying here makes sense, and I just worry about the internal controls. And there are towns that elect for 1 year a tax collector. Do it every year. The townspeople elect. And there are more than one towns that have it separate. So, and I have a lot of faith in Kim and Cynthia and Michelle. They do a good job, but I just want to make sure they're doing the internal control.
Do you know that if you elect an official, you can't remove the official? That was misinformation that was given to us by Kate
Towns
Moran.
elect each year,
Right.
and they
But-
take nominations from folks.
And you cannot tell the elected person how to do their job or what to do. You cannot tell them anything.
But they have statutes they have to follow.
They have statutes they have to follow, but they don't have to, for instance, they don't have to deliver they can deliver the money to town when they feel like delivering the money to the town. There isn't anything you can do about it. They don't have hours to work, they don't have nothing. You know, they have their own accounts. That's
Just like-
part of the problem. They have their own accounts,
Just like the board can't tell the town clerk what to do,
right? Or the treasurer.
or the treasurer. You can ask, they don't have to do it. The only way you can
It's
get,
not right to me.
well, the only way is you have to not elect that person the following
have to
year.
What people don't want to accept that is the reality. And all you have to do is go down and talk to the people at Townsend. They had a treasurer. They shut her out of the office and wouldn't let her work. That was the only way they could stop her. They had a lister who killed her husband, who was also a lister. They couldn't get rid of the lister, even though she was sitting in prison, because she was elected and she would not resign. There's nothing you can do to elect a person. The reason he doesn't, the reason he wants this to go internally has little to do with the fact that that is the case, because we've never had a problem with Jan, had much to do with the fact that she doesn't do anything. The tax collector doesn't do anything. It's all on them, Rick. It's all on them, Rick. Anybody could do it, and Michelle does do it. And you can't cheat on taxes. They're due and they're paid. And if they're paid and the person said they're paid and they're not on the books, where'd the money go? That's pretty simple. And you know how much it is. So that's why he wants it in, and that's why he says it's a waste of money and it's a waste of town resources, 8%. And his figure is $50,000 for nothing. What do you want?
Okay, but the idea was to do something for the Grafton News.
Correct.
Or to put some
To
kind
write
of
a
letter
letter.
out.
To write a
So I
letter
think what-
explaining,
Right, so what we need
Why?
to agree here tonight is, can we write a draft to go into the Grafton News explaining?
That's what I wanted this to do. This is just, if you don't like this, then you guys can write another. That's what this is. It explains why we did it.
It's okay by me.
That's why, and this comes from Fred, who I called, he outlined it for me, I wrote it, sent it back to him. And he wrote back and said, yep, that's, yeah. He made a couple more changes.
Was there any dialogue with Jan, with Kim and Cynthia and Michelle about this? Or any concerns about?
Yeah, she didn't
changing
say
it out?
one word.
Yeah.
She did, she was spoken to about.
she was in the office, spent time with Michelle explaining what.
You know what, stop. If we can talk about that, let's go to executive session.
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to get back on.
No, what Kim
You're
told me
right.
was that there was, she had no indication that there was any kind of opposition or whatever.
Nothing was discussed at pre-town meeting. They were
Nothing.
there. Nothing
And
came
she
up.
did spend time, so. And Kim was blown away, because she said to me, if she didn't like it, why didn't she say something to me? So that, I think we can say that as a going executive
So
session.
that's not sitting anywhere.
No. So we need a motion. Is this okay to go into the Grafton
Well,
minutes?
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Should we add to it the numbers that she gave us?
Well, are they really, are they reality?
Well, she
I don't know.
said she collected $1 million. Do the math, 8% over a 20-year period. Do the math on $1,500 stipend, 20-year period, so people can see the difference. And that's $50,000 into the town. Should that be part of this?
Is it,
Would there be anything in the minutes that would stipulate that she said that? I don't want anything to come up that says,
Oh,
like,
yeah. Of course it would be in there.
well, if it's in the minutes, it's fine, I just, but just
Ask
to,
Wendy, she was there typing all that.
well, I'm just,
Well, I think
That's all
we
I'm
need, I think we need to verify that to make sure that that is accurate statement.
It's on his tape, it's on his tape.
I understand that, but I don't remember her saying that, quite frankly. I'm not denying you, I'm just saying, I think,
I went back and watched the tape.
She said she collected $1 million.
Right.
well, if she said it and it's
over 20
on,
years?
it's on the record, then I have no problem with it, that's all right.
Oh, yeah, watch the tape. Yeah,
Well-
around minutes 55.
Well, is there a job description that she has to follow? Any collector for the town?
I don't think we have a job description. I think Kim and I talked about that, I think she said something, we need to have a job description, I don't think we have any. But again, I have to.
Especially, what they're supposed to do if someone's late. When do you get notified?
We don't have any policy.
it's
That's what she
an
told me.
elected, you know, it's an
Yeah,
elected,
it's
so they
elected, so they can do
do,
what they
Yeah,
want.
but-
they do what they gotta do.
But the town doesn't have a policy, Kathy. If somebody doesn't pay their taxes, we don't have a policy that says after 1 year,
Right.
it goes to tax sale, after 2 years to go to tax sale. We don't have any policy.
We,
But there's a lot of
we-
statutes.
we have,
On a tax
that- we have basically no policy. We have a policy that doesn't say anything, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, Kim said we need to have a policy, and that's something.
Our policy doesn't
we'll
even
work
say
on.
when we start foreclosure, it doesn't say anything.
No, that's what I
Doesn't even
mean.
say when they're late, doesn't say nothing.
Well,
Well,
what
that's for
happens
the
when you
future.
don't have a policy is that you have a lot of deals out there with the different taxpayers that pay the taxes, which is not right.
That's not right.
Right.
Well, that can be a future topic for a select board.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what you have. Is this so that anybody can understand it?
I
That's-
think so, that's why I did it. But the reason I did is, why did we do this? Because we ended up looking really stupid. We didn't know that there was gonna be this big
That's a lot
opposition to
of
something that was a no-brainer.
Right.
And then,
We were totally unprepared for that.
yeah, and had we known, had you guys known, you probably would have said to me, or I would have said, let's get something together because this is gonna be an issue. And this is his explanation, this is Fred's, as you know, he's very calm, think this is his reasons for doing it.
Kim told me he laughed at her when
He
when
laughed
she
at
told
me too,
me.
he says,
What's
what's
the
the
matter?
reasoning? I said, well, I can give you one, but I think, and he just laughed, he said, that's high school stuff.
So, do we want to add anything to this?
I would keep it very clear and simple.
I would use those numbers so people
I'll
can
try to use
understand
the
what it
numbers.
means.
Okay, so why don't you do a redraft of this bill, and then we can discuss it before, but we gotta get some approval of this before the 25th, I think, because that's
Somewhere
when
around
the
there, yeah.
deadline, I think, for,
But possible to get it in.
yeah, to get it in.
Okay,
Can we move on?
So now,
Well,
when
do we need a
is she
motion?
done? When is that?
Hmm?
When is Jan done?
Jan done, she's done.
She is
Done.
She's done.
Town meeting.
Michelle is now the
Town,
council.
town meeting.
Yeah. All right, so,
Do we need a motion that, or a direction for Bill, or?
yeah. Huh?
I'll just get back to you.
Yeah, let's have a motion, so that we're gonna run an article explaining the delinquent tax plan in the paper.
I make a motion that Bill update this letter he presented to us, and including some math in preparation for the Grafton news.
Second,
Second.
discussion, any more? In favor?
Right.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? All right, do we wanna do the fire warden, or do we wanna put that off?
Do it.
Okay.
Do you want to do it in executive
Session
session?
or not?
I think so.
Yeah, okay,
And we'll do the tree warden executive session,
Okay,
all right, okay.
because they're both positions. so.
yeah, I think that's it.
We have appointments.
Oh, appointments, yeah, you got the appointments too. I don't have anybody to take Kathy's place.
Kathy who?
Me,
Oh,
She doesn't want to do whatever that
senior
is.
solutions.
Senior.
I've been doing it a long
The
time.
Council on Aging.
oh, okay.
I asked, and I never heard back from Chris Wallace, but I haven't asked anybody else. And the other are, I'm pretty sure Jason and John are gonna do it, but I didn't hear back from them. But,
You mean for the,
don't need either one of those appointments right away. Jason, under his capital budget, about the seventh line down, sixth line down, and then way down toward the bottom right above Rodney, John Plummer, Grafton Development Review Board, 3 years.
I'm sure Jason will do that. He'll do-
I'm pretty sure he will too.
well,
Seemed like-
you had a question about you serving as a selectman and as a capital.
Yeah, I asked
I don't think there's a conflict.
Bill if there was a conflict.
There's a list of positions that are conflicts, and I don't remember that being on it, but we should check that
Because
list.
it is, I'll get off.
And I-
Well, you could be ex officio and that would solve that problem.
Ex officio and the liaison like Cynthia used to be.
Yeah. But I don't think it's a conflict.
What, BRB?
Huh?
The BRB?
No.
For the
Capital.
capital budget.
I think it's, actually, I think it's a helpful thing to have a select person on there, rather than not.
Yeah, I think years ago we did have a select board person on there.
Okay, what I'm gonna do is see, put John and Jason on there.
Yeah, I
Appointed
know, I know
and,
Jason will do it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jason, and I'm pretty sure John.
Okay, but you have the cemetery agent here.
Yeah.
He's still the cemetery agent.
Where do we stand on that?
Walton?
There is no such position in the state of Vermont, so, I haven't written anything yet, but, because this whole thing's up in the air, I thought we would have a discussion, what the heck you guys are gonna do, because it isn't like a road commissioner that if you don't have somebody in charge of roads, that you guys are the road commissioner, or, everything falls back on you. Cemetery is nothing, so
Well,
you gotta create it, and it's never ever been created, or at least we don't have anything.
You have the same problem with the cemeteries as you do with the tax collector. We have no policy. There is no policy. So, and Stan and I have been working on that, and I don't know what happened with now that the winter is over, maybe
Yeah, we're
Debo
just-
can
yeah.
start that. Stan and I did meet with Don, and he was amenable to turn over all the records. He does tell Kim every time there's a burial, so it's being recorded, so we have all the latest
She
recordings.
does the paperwork.
She does the paperwork. The issue is that it's the back. Do we have all the information of who's buried where, when? And there is no policies about whether or not you can have a cremation in a certain cemetery. Like, I bought my plot back in 1981 or 2 or 3 or something like that. And now I can't be buried there. So you can't have a retroactive policy. So I think that maybe Stan and I can, now that the elections are over and whatever, maybe we will get Debo to do the thing and try to put everything on there, and then we put it on the agenda and try to get a policy, to see what's going on about, how things are done.
Well, I think it's two things. First, who's in charge of the cemeteries?
Well, we are actually,
But then you appoint somebody
Yes.
to do it. So-
Yes.
So who are you appointing, or have you?
well, right now it was Don Lawrence, but now there's nobody. I mean, maybe
Well, he hasn't.
he hasn't resigned yet, but I don't know whether he's still doing it with Walter, as I understand it.
You see, but my only problem with Don is I think it's an awful liability to the town of Grafton.
We've talked, we
Huge
know
liability.
that. We absolutely know that.
Sometimes you've got to say,
Yeah,
hey,
I agree.
no matter who it is. And whoever it may be.
Well, I think it's time that he retire and somebody else take over. I mean, that's my opinion.
And the other thing is the mapping and the stuff of the cemeteries, all the information that he's got out to his house, or if you've got it now.
Well, we have it here.
We've got the
We've got
maps, he
all that
brought them
map.
in, but
Right,
they're,
yeah.
the map of an entire cemetery is that big.
Yeah, and my, again, I had to use mine, but I looked at mine because I know, I'm not even on the map.
Yeah.
And we've actually already talked to Debo about doing it. So now that the snow is gone, I will call him.
And
just
Stan and I
remind him.
met with Don
We've
for
already
over
met.
an hour and a half,
Yeah.
and, you know, he understands, and he said he would do everything he can to get it updated, as long as he's, you know, still able.
Well, okay. So,
Same
so
thing.
that leaves,
We're at least working on it.
Yeah.
That's all we can say.
so that leaves you've got to appoint him or not appoint him.
Well, you may have to have a commission. I
Well,
mean,
you
that's
know-
what a lot of towns do, is they have a cemetery commission.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other thing we still have to keep in mind is, according to Don, and I have to go by what he says, and we only have about 2.5 years left
Right.
of graves left,
Need
so,
more space.
I don't know, so that's another issue. I know we looked at a couple of places, Stan,
Yeah.
we went up to a place on Townsend, Tanya Evans still has that 1 acre plot that she was still, which we haven't acted on, so I think that's something
Should act on that.
we should do something, you know.
Well, I think we can get an idea, once we get the blueprint, the prints of
Yeah.
the land, we can get a better idea of what we're looking
Right. So we need to have an approval here of,
I want a motion to appoint every one of those persons in that column that's
at. Continue.
the third to the end. 2020 appointed persons. And know that you haven't appointed council on aging, and you guys are the road commissioners, and the bound, that'll come up in July. Wyndham County is our human society.
Question. Should the inspector of lumber be the same as the tree warden? No, I know it doesn't have to be, but why have two different ones?
But because he wants to be inspected.
Not just because he wants to be that, I mean, why have two positions or something? As I understand it, the inspector of lumber, it's not too much to do, except that you, if I sold you a cord of wood, you pile it up, and plus the cord of wood, you come down and measure it for you. Correct. Something like that, so I don't know.
Right. I had a conversation with Tracy, and the real thing I was talking to him about was tree warden. I says, my guess is that you've done those positions out of respect to your father. And he acknowledged that was correct, and that he hadn't had to do much. The tree warden, I says, is about to get busy. I says, like it or not, there's gonna be some decisions somebody's gonna have to make, and I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. And I encouraged him to attend some of these Emil Ash Board meetings, and he did. And of course, he has had some health issues he's been dealing with, so you gotta cut him a little slack. So in the end, he says, well, the tree warden part, he says, I really gonna consider my time up at town meeting. And I said, well, then I got thinking about it, I said, well, there are two different positions, they don't have to be the same person. So if the inspector of lumber or measuring wood gets no calls, he can have that title out of respect to his dad, and we can find somebody to do the tree warden, which is what's really important. So that's the background behind it.
Bill, you, John Plummer, you don't have a yes here.
I'm sure he'll do it.
Okay.
So I want you to appoint him, and if he says no, then I'll bring that position back. I'd like to just get these off my desk.
Okay, and then, did anybody get the memo from Dave Culver about the Wyndham, the WRC members? I mean,
We haven't had that other
Oh, I
position
know,
for
for years.
ever.
I know.
And Eric goes to all the meetings, so he doesn't really need a replacement, and that's what it's for, and I think we need to go.
okay, it's fine with me.
they're probably gonna push for somebody.
No, they're not. They haven't pushed for anybody in the.
Well, they talked about it at the meeting I was at the other night. So
Then they can approach you with that person.
Yeah, let them come, they can fill it. You know, we can improve it, whatever, so.
Or just,
All right, so we need a motion then, I guess, to approve the appointments.
Oh,
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excuse me. Okay, so that's done. Okay, so now what do we have left
okay,
here?
I have,
Whoa, wait a minute. I didn't read all of this, but my name's next to tree warden.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Before I agreed to that,
you weren't due that minute.
yeah.
before I agreed to that,
that's what we're gonna discuss in
Executive session, so leave it alone.
okay.
Okay.
We don't have, do we have any
I
other business?
want to be
Yes,
quiet.
we
when
have-
get to speak.
I have five.
I do too.
5 excess weight permits, Dead River, Gurney Brothers, McCullough, Norman and Basin, they all paid the fee, and we have the insurance for all of
Just for fun of it, what's that first alert AT&T thing?
Oh,
We
yes.
just gonna put
them.
that
They
on?
were gonna come, they were gonna send me some stuff
You never did?
on First Alert ATT. What it is, it's a little simpler if the town provided us cell phones. Well, we don't. So, what would happen in that case, you would sign up with First Alert, pay an extra fee on that cell phone bill, and everything's hunky-dory. What they have to do here is, they have, everybody individually has to sign up under a group. They recognize the group, and they sign you up under the group, but you gotta pay for it. And, they're gonna send all the materials, so we can look at it. The problem is, it's very highfalutin for us, for one thing, and although, if you needed it, it would be really nice, because if the whole world blew up in Vermont, just in Vermont, if they were limiting, as they do, who can get on the cell tower, you would be able to get on, and when no one else could. So, I mean, there are reasons for it, but the likelihood of being used,
Our cell thing.
Yeah, but I don't like, I have Verizon, so how would it help me?
no, it's AT&T.
It's 18.
Yeah, so I would have to switch
We
to
would have to-
AT&T? I have
well,
no
for
idea.
for that phone, you have to have a separate phone.
I'm not gonna buy a separate phone.
No, but
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
That's what he's saying.
And,
Yeah.
and you
Right.
have to know whether it is a Android or
Yeah,
Smartphone.
a smartphone.
that's all.
Okay.
But they didn't send me anything, so I just decided that we wouldn't talk.
But I thought you guys had it for EMS, or for emergency management stuff. You were at that meeting with the squad last year, or a year and a half ago, with AT&T?
Mhm.
Did you guys do that?
I didn't
thought you
sign
guys
up
were
for
gonna
it.
have a
I didn't sign
phone
up for it.
and AT&T.
No, that's what they talked about. And then that year, maybe a year and a half ago, at the emergency management conference up at Lake Maury, they had the truck there and everything. But no decision was ever made.
Oh, I thought you guys had.
I do know during the ice storm, when I was up there in northeast or northwestern part of the state, in the Grand Isle County, that's exactly what happened there. All the cell towers just overloaded because all the power lines were out, phone lines were out, and the cell towers. And of course, that was a while ago now, so they're better now than they were then, but they overloaded, nobody could use them.
Well, that's what happened in 9/11 too.
Yeah, they shut them up, so that's the example they use.
Right.
They shut them off except for the people who have priority.
Right, but if you're an AT&T customer, that's all well and good, but if you're not, then you're gonna have a second phone, you're gonna pay another bill or whatever.
Yeah, it's only 18.
If the town wants to supply phones for the select board, that's okay, but, I mean, why should we have to go spend more money?
Exactly, and people that have to pay for it themselves, we reimburse the town, so I would have to see it at work and show me something that is really worthwhile.
I mean, I'm like Stan, I hate my damn phone. I mean, my phone's in the truck, it's not here.
While we're talking about smartphones, let me just get rid of the Zoom thing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wrote all of you back
Yeah.
with a page that I just copied a Google search They're all interactive. You hit control and punch on that thing, and you can watch videos up the yin yang all night long and find out what Zoom does.
No, thank you.
Okay? And then we can decide whether we want to do it.
Okay.
What-
Kind of,
Huh?
kind of video.
X-ray.
It's a video, it's a YouTube, why YouTube video. There's there's probably 20 different YouTube and what it is, you
What's
look,
that?
you're sitting here at the
That's
meeting,
what
at the meeting like this, and on your, your phone is divided into things. If you got 7 people on there, there's 7 blocks, there are pictures and everyone, and you're talking to them like what do you call it, FaceTime.
Marianne McDonald was the one who sent the emails.
No, some lady who works at Dartmouth.
No, it was hers, was, oh, that's right, yeah, she is.
But the idea is if people start getting sick and you can't come physically to a meeting, then one person has to be here. Somebody has to be here for you to have a meeting.
To have it.
The rest of us can call in if you have the
Oh,
technology
you can
to
see
let
it
that
on the
happen.
phone?
Well, if you had Zoom,
You can
Oh.
see it.
and, yeah, and we did it, and, well, and I don't know enough about it. I don't think we could do it unless the public could be on there, so now you have 20
Well, we
people
have
on
the
there?
phone.
You have 20 people watching you? No, I mean, they have to part.
Yeah, but see, everybody understands that we have to do everything with open meeting law. So we don't have the same luxury as the church
You
or.
can't just say,
or
well, it's a
any
good
other-
idea to use Facebook. For instance, it's a very bad idea to use Facebook if you're in
Yeah.
town. Really bad
Yeah.
idea, because you can't control it, and you're responsible for whatever's on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our other business, we got that rate
Yeah,
limits.
yeah.
Oh, you need a motion
Before you
to,
do it, Deborah Gurney, McCullough, Gravel Smashing, Normandin, and Basinville.
okay,
And
so,
they've all paid and they all have it.
all right, so we need a motion to accept
To
and
approve.
have Bill sign the certificate.
So
Approve.
So
Second.
Oh, that's one of-
No, no, Bill does. All in favor?
Oh, and the end that I signed.
Yeah, I said, and
Said that.
Bill signs.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, what else? You got more other business?
I'm
Bill?
done. I'm done.
Well, John, you have other business?
Okay, I want to back up to that paving for just a second.
Sure.
Where did you come up with the 300,000 that we have in the paving?
Oh, there's 60,000 that was in there from last year, right? There's 120,000 or whatever number is for this year, and there's 120,000 in the budget for next year.
Well, by looking at these things, you have 95,000 in the reserve right now, as of March 9th. You have 95,000.
Okay, what's,
Then you've got what you voted at town meeting, the 100 and whatever
Yeah.
that figure it is, so.
Yeah, but the reserve doesn't, this year's reserve is not in there yet.
That's what I'm telling you. So you got the 95 plus
106, plus what
was
they voted.
105, whatever it is. So
Whatever
that
it is,
gives you 200,000.
Yeah, but you got this year's. After July
Yes.
1st, you got another 106,000.
right,
So, oh, after,
yes, this July, this summer, we get another 100.
106,000.
but you're telling me then that the last year's, or the year that we're in right now, is not in this 95?
No, it's not in there.
No,
It's not in
No,
there.
no.
Because we're not out
not
of
at
the
the end of
calendar
the-
year yet.
right, we're not at the end of the year yet.
The end of the calendar year is June 30th, or 31st, whatever it is.
Then whatever's left gets moved in.
But when it was voted, it should go in the reserve.
No, it doesn't go in until, according to Kim, it doesn't go in until the end of the fiscal year.
Right, Dan?
Yep, she says.
Because we, on the first year we did this, we actually used
Yeah.
some of it to
Yeah, for
repair
35.
35. So you don't know until the end of the
Yeah,
year.
this was 100 and something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to add the 106, because I don't think we spent any money this year so far. And then, as soon as July 1st comes, you have another 106,000.
I'm gonna check with Kim.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
you check it
Oh,
out.
absolutely.
But
No,
we-
but that's how it is.
We went over to Kim and that's what we come up with.
Yeah,
Yeah, but do that anyway.
yeah, but do it anyway, go
I
ahead.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's,
I will not
it's a little,
feel
it's a
bad.
little, it's a little confusing because she doesn't put the reserve money until the end of the fiscal year, even though you voted.
Does she do that with all the monies?
Yes, all the reserve monies, I believe. But ask her.
That gets a little confusing.
Yeah.
You know, it's-
Don't ask me why, I
Yeah,
don't
right.
ask her, but that's what she
So,
says.
so if that's the case, how much do you have to walk the bridge?
Oh, Walker Bridge is,
Oh.
that is a,
That's different,
that's a solid account that's in there. And
because
right
that's
now,
capital.
we're putting in 46,000 a year, and I think there's 100,000 in there.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
put in originally, and we're putting 46,000 a year, hoping that it'll take,
6 years.
yeah, 6 years to get to, 7 years to get to things, so we have 400,000.
So the 46,000 will not go into June 30th or whatever.
Yeah, now remember, there's something else too that you have to keep in mind, and we have the reserve fund.
Yeah.
I mean, not the reserve fund, the surplus,
Understand.
all right?
Yeah, so-
So there's money, you know, assuming that the end of the year comes and nothing happens with the budget, you could take that money and either let the reserve fund grow, or you could take $40,000-$50,000 and transfer it for paving.
Yeah, there's 60,000 in there, 60-something.
No, it's more than that.
Yes, 60.
No.
In the unassigned.
There's another thing that is part of that 316,000.
I thought it was like 160.
No, there's 160, but this year, so far, you might have a surplus. And if you have a surplus at the end of the year, then that $60,000 could go into the reserve, goes into to the reserve fund, or the surplus fund. But you can take money out of that, you only need 10%.
10%.
So anything over 10%, you can remove and use for paving, culverts, or anything else you want to do with it.
That's how we established the fund for the
Exactly.
town hall.
Or you can reduce the tax rate. If the tax rate comes in June, when we meeting, and you want to reduce the tax rate by 0.5 cent or whatever, you could take the money and reduce the tax rate. So there's another source of money, but we don't know whether you have a reserve until the end of the year, assuming something crazy could happen. Anyway, any other business? Do you have
Yeah, I
something?
do.
Okay.
I asked Bill to create some volunteer forms
Yes.
for 2 reasons. I have 6 people that went to the Ash Board training session, and they're volunteers, and so we ought to have some kind of a waiver signature before they're out on the road doing
This is
that.
what, this was Ann Arbor and then Bill, did you do this?
But
The
he created,
VLCTs, I think, or
he
something?
created a graphic.
Yeah, this is,
Well, I haven't created it yet.
I was gonna
what's,
say,
what created this one?
I haven't created it yet.
Well,
I got 2 from Wade, I have not created them yet.
Who created,
I thought you had
This
one
is-
that you showed me.
this
the
is
other
Ann
day.
Arbor. Where did this one come
You picked up the one that you thought was the volunteer form, that is for hired contractors. It says right
But
in
you
there.
had
here,
another,
okay.
but you had another one there.
I haven't changed the name on it, Al, it isn't
What's
on
this
this.
Well, what have you been doing?
The one he had was from
This
Wade.
is the city of Lafayette, probably
Oh.
Indiana.
Oh, okay, all right.
Well,
So if, I could have it ready tomorrow at noon.
Does it work Friday, do it?
That's why it isn't ready. I was working Friday, and it got yelled at by him anyway, because I was working on Friday.
So-
And then I go home, and then I get yelled at for not staying and doing it. So there you go.
so here's where I'm at. I have people, Wednesday, we're gonna do a in the field day with the Emerald Ash Borer people. And so we're gonna be out walking on roads and stuff. I
That's the thing.
thought I was getting,
Oh, yeah.
I was playing it smart, getting the signatures on this form I saw downstairs. Bill wasn't here the day I picked it up, and so I got him to sign it all, it's the wrong form. So, do you, somehow I wanna make sure I get a signature and they have something in place before we start doing this
Absolutely.
on Wednesday. So, either you give us the okay to use this form that was created, or I gotta call the people and say, well, we can't work on Wednesday.
Are you starting Monday?
Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday.
Well, how does this all work out? I mean, we've been doing Green Up Day with walking along the highways with cars zipping past you at 50 miles an hour for 30 years. I don't remember ever signing anything for
Passive
that.
has started to audit us more carefully, and if you don't have proper forms, they're wondering why you aren't having workers' comp covering these people.
Okay, so
in
we
order
gotta
to
do the
make
same
sure
thing.
that didn't happen,
Okay.
we need to do that.
Yep,
These
that's
forms came from passive, from wages or passive. He assures me that they are, as long as I follow them just like they are, they'll be fine. I am going to make them Grafton's own, send them back to him, and usually he gets right back to me saying they're fine. Even if he doesn't get back to me, we'll sign them, and if they're not right, then the next time they go out,
Do it
we'll
again.
sign it different.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so that's
Is that
one,
okay with everybody?
Yep.
that's one issue and one use for this volunteer fund. Number two, I went and walked in the park with my friend Rick White, retired recreation forester for Vermont. And I said, Rick, you know, you and I have both taken game of logging. I've instructed it for 13 years. You did all the recreation, all the timber cut, all the stuff we want to do on the trails. He did that as part of his job when he's willing to work with me as a volunteer. He and I will go and cut some hazard trees along the way, cut some brush out of the way, prep the site where the lean-to would go. I want him, and I'm going to, he and I both sign a volunteer form so that we're taking the liability off the town for our work that we're gonna do in here, okay? So that's 2 applications for the volunteer form. When we were in there walking in the park, you know, I've just been doing all this emerald ash borer, I start looking through the park, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there are some beautiful ash trees in the park. Right now, those trees are worth money if we harvest them. If we don't harvest them because they are in the park, then those trees are gonna become a hazard and a liability that will need to be removed beforehand, later. So, if we proceed with the parking area, which we got permission from Act 250, I would kind of change the direction. Originally was thinking we were gonna do some patch cuts. Maybe we still do
Still
patch cuts
should.
for wildlife. But then I think we should add to it, cutting those ash trees while they are revenue to the town that we can put back into the park, as opposed to waiting until it costs us money to take them down.
Are we talking, you talking a lot of trees?
I didn't go and inventory them, but just walking out the trail, I'm like, well, there's a nice ash tree, there's a nice ash tree. And I'm talking 18, 20, 4-inch ash trees that are worth some money. How many of them? I have not done them.
So why don't we just do that? I mean, well, I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Well,
Can we just sort of do a log, so it becomes a project?
it will become a project, but.
That's the way, you know, just don't go in and just cut a couple of trees, just make sure there's a project.
We're gonna, but you can't do a log job and make it all pretty right off the bat.
Right.
And
No,
so
of course not.
there will be people that are gonna be upset that we went in there and cut some trees. So,
Sure. I mean, you can't, logging is logging, is what it is.
well, I know that, but I'm just, be prepared that we're gonna get some pushback, but it's like, all right, we'll let them die, and then we gotta go cut them in their hazards then. So,
Okay? Anything else? Do you want a motion?
I would like one.
Okay.
Were you gonna cut the ash trees, or you?
No, that's gonna be a contract job.
Yeah.
No, I just wanna cut the hazard trees along the trail and cut the brush away, so it's good for people to hike and get rid of the hazards that are right around where the old fireplace was, where that picnic area was. That's where the.
So what kind of motion do you want to make?
What I have is to do the patch cut and to harvest the ash trees in park.
And
And what about the parking area?
that'll be part of that.
That will be part of that project.
So you want to have that
That'll be
as
a-
part of the motion?
That'll be a contractor. And,
Oh, okay.
and my thinking is that we could hire a contractor to build the parking area.
Danny could do it, I think.
Danny could do it, Jamie could do it, you know, there's several people that could do it. But if it is a logging contractor that also has equipment, and I'm thinking somebody like Thad Guile, you know, that can put the parking lot in, use the parking lot for the timber sale. When the timber sale's done, then we do the finished graveling and
Sure, you can
shape
stump
it up. And that's kind of a package deal. And if all said and done, we make some money on it, fine, but at least we should get a lot of work done for nothing.
So what I have, do patch cut, harvest ash tree in park, and create the parking area.
We should go up there as a group sometime.
Yeah,
I agree, but it was just,
Yeah,
you know, I hadn't been thinking about it till I was walking in there, like, whoa, there's an ash tree, there's an ash tree. Yeah.
we could,
I don't know how many there
the
are.
next meeting is April 6th. I mean, it's gonna be light out, maybe it won't be so cold, maybe we
be a
can,
good place to see where the parking.
yeah, maybe we
Yeah.
should, have the meeting at 5 o'clock or something, and then, unless you wanna have a 3 o'clock meeting, we
No.
can do that.
Oh, this is work time, this is work time.
Alright,
Okay, cool.
so, all in favor of the motion?
We don't have a motion.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, someone gotta make the motion.
Can you read the motion I'm about to make? Bill?
To do the patch cut, harvest ash trees in the park, and create a parking area. All in the village park.
So moved.
Okay, would it be just a little bit nicer that the log landing will become, as opposed to creating a parking lot, that the log landing?
Not a parking lot.
Well,
Parking
area.
lot to me means blacktop and white lines, this is a parking.
Well, that's
area.
why I was saying, would it be better if we just said that the log landing will become a parking area?
I got it from
Okay.
log landing. Okay.
That way it's already open.
Yeah.
So now we need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Okay, now we need a motion to go into executive session.
One minute,
Oh,
before
go
you-
ahead.
On this ash borer,
Mhm.
I'll shut up after a while. But on this ash borer, I got some information for you on this. I spoke to Danny about right-of-way,
Mhm.
and I got explaining to him that the center of the road, to me, is not the center of the road in a lot of places. You know, it may be
Could be
over
over
20 feet,
right.
30 feet off. He says, no, he says, everybody goes by the center of the road whenever you're doing something like that. Because if you look up the deeds, probably in all the deeds, it doesn't say anything about a stone wall, you know, as the right-of-way up through there. And so everybody's going for the middle, so whenever you count them, you can go for the middle of the road.
Ooh, that's gonna make it, it's sure nice to just measure the stuff inside the stone wall.
But this is gonna make it, so it's gonna be the same all the way, because a lot of the roads don't have the stone walls.
If you just took the edge of the road and went back 6 feet or 10 feet, can't you just do just a very broad definition? I mean, you're not gonna go with a tape measure, measure the center of the road all the time.
Not all of them, they're different. Some of them are two lots, some are 2.5, some are 3. Down through here goes to 4, down below the garage. So they're all different. So, and you can tell, you know pretty much what they all are, except, like you go up Hinkley Brook, you get to Skiz Jones's place, that they call that Cook Hill, it changes right there. It's 2.5 rods up through, and it changes to 3 right there for short distance. And stuff like that.
Can you put some marks on the map for us? Or it would be nice to know what the right-of-ways are.
You think?
It's pretty difficult to do, I mean.
I mean,
Just gonna check if you go a few feet.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
what's
I'm
the
saying.
diff-
Can't you go from the edge of the road, say 6
Yeah, I
feet
mean,
or
what's the
10 feet?
difference? So you're getting, it's
Yeah, I mean-
not an exact account, so
Right,
you
this
get
is
an
not,
idea.
we're not surveying.
You know, if there's 3,000, maybe there's 3,010, so what's the difference?
Okay, for instance, you guys don't even own the road by my house. You don't own anything, you own a right of way. How much is that, is the public right of way? How big is that right of way? Well, if one pickup comes in, it's as wide as the pickup. If they're passing each other, it's wide as 2 pickups. Soon as they get back together again, it's wide as 1 pickup. You don't own to the stone walls, you don't own nothing. I own it, and if you look at your deed, you're gonna find out you own the damn road. So don't even argue about this. If there's rock walls are there, use the rock walls. If aren't there rock walls there, just make some reasonable thing, mark the trees, and before you start deciding to cut them or anything, tell the landowner, come down, look at the trees, if you have any complaint about, you know, the one you named Mary, might wanna keep that one. Other than, and if we say that, yeah, that's okay, we'll put a big M on it, you can keep that. Then we're going down the road, that's what you have to do.
It's hard to use the stone walls because some of the roads, the stone wall is right on the edge of the road.
It is.
Yeah.
And some of it is back where it's supposed to be. So you just can't use it.
Yeah, but you can't go over the stone wall and say, I'm gonna cut that tree, if that person doesn't want you to cut it, and it's in their property.
Why don't the new tree warden
Yes,
and whoever
work it out.
work this thing out and bring it back to the board?
Right.
Because there isn't
And
any.
figure out what system they want to use. I would leave it up to the
Millions
tree
of
warden.
dollars to do what you guys want to do if you're gonna be exact. Millions of dollars, literally.
One thing you said we're not going to do, and that's mark the trees. If we mark the trees now, then once you put a mark on that tree, to somebody's mind, you've declared a hazard. And if that tree falls on somebody,
They don't mark them. I don't
go
care.
to go to court.
Let the tree warden come up with the policy. That's what they're supposed to do anyway.
What are those ribbons on those dead white pines right at, going into Houghtonville? Do you know? There's some pink ribbons hanging on 2 dead white pine trees, big white pine trees that are dead.
On 121?
On 121, just as you go from dirt to blacktop going into Houghtonville from here.
Is the lines there?
Is it GMP? Good
I
one.
don't know who marked,
Because
they're just pink ribbons hanging down, they're not around the tree, it's a pink ribbon hanging down like this.
Maybe it's a survey mark?
I'll bet it's an engineer's one.
is it up saying reach it area
Oh, no, this is up,
high?
fairly high up on the tree. It isn't,
Is that on Howdy's Lane?
no, more than likely. it's
Okay,
this-
let's
this
go on
is-
about business, we're not gonna start
Yeah.
that.
Motion to go into executive session.
You got someplace to go?
No, but I didn't want to go anywhere.
Go into session. Need a motion to go to executive session.
Heard the cat, heard the cat. Second.
Favor? Yes?
Yeah.
Everybody's in favor? Okay. We're in executive session.